You know, my dear nerds, 2024 was not a good year. We are 1 year older, we are, probably with less hair on our heads and more white hairs in our beards. And a lot of things happened in 2024 which are not so nice, but at the very least, our tiny little niche seems to have prospered, because in 2024 we got a whole lot of awesome horizontal handhelds. And it seemed only fitting, because it's the end of the year, that we go through them. Actually, it's this direction. That we go through them and we check out which one of them were better than the others. Because I think that we had a bit of choice overload. There were just too many freaking options, and a lot of people talked about all of them. So as a regular person, as a regular nerd, lost in the ether, you must be probably a bit confused. Heck, I spend most of my days trying to keep up with this stuff, and I'm still a bit confused. But it doesn't matter. We're gonna go through this together, we're gonna talk, we're gonna spend time together. So sit back and relax. And by the way, just so I tone expectations here, don't expect this video to be super polished. I want it to be a very conversational video. I'm gonna go through a lot of these little mother flippers, so it's gonna be more like a talk between you and me. It's like we are friends sitting by a couch and you serve me, carbs because I love carbs. You know that one friend that just talks and talks and talks, and it seems like they never leave you a bit of space to add your own thoughts to the conversation? Well, it's like that, but yeah, I'm online. Anyway, let's go to the table. So, my nerds, yeah, this is quite a sight. My whole little table here is absolutely full. It's quite a collection of black handhelds. I really worked a lot to maintain the black color options. There was always this temptation of getting transparent whatevers and different beautiful colors, but I stood strong, and now we have black variants all over the place. Well, except for this one. This is, as you may know, the RG CubeXX, but the thing is that this white model really gets blown out by my camera if I put it next to these other guys. So I'm just gonna summon this whenever I need it throughout the rest of this, video. So here's the deal. It's impossible for us to choose just one handheld for 2024, because all of these guys right here, they are of different budgets. We can say that the Miyoo A30 should compete with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. It would be ludicrous, it would be silly and way oversimplified. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna find a Linux handheld for 2024, and then we're gonna find an Android handheld for 2024, and these two shall receive the crown as the best horizontal handhelds for their categories. So to make things easier, I organized the Linux handhelds, aka this pile on the left, and the Android ones on the right. And I'm just gonna go and talk a bit about each of them, and we'll get to share our thoughts and debate a bit in the comment section. The first on the list is the RG28XX from Anbernic. And, after the smoke cleared and after we all lost that initial enthusiasm, I can say that I'm not in love with this one. I had two color variants. I think this black is the best, but the fact of the matter is that this one is just too small. The D-pad is so freaking small that it's not even big enough to be thicker than my thumb. And the same goes for the ABXY buttons. They are just super small. But the main thing that bothers me with this one is the shoulder and trigger buttons, because they are placed on the other side of the plastic casing here. You will have instances when you're trying to press and you are just gonna hit empty plastic. So it will take quite a bit to get used to this one. But this is something that we should, highlight. You shouldn't have to get used to improper design. So this one, in my opinion, is probably the least lucky handheld that came out of 2024. I cannot say that I am crazy over this, because I cannot see myself ever using the RG28XX without hating myself or hating my eyes. So This one will just disqualify and move away from the pile that we have here. Since I started with the RG28XX, it makes sense that we continue with the micro handhelds and talk about the Miyoo A30. You know, my dear nerds, I think we all did the Miyoo A30 probably the greatest injustice ever when it comes to the history of handhelds. This little guy was instantly not accepted by the community. We collectively pushed it out of its nest and we were like, we don't like this one in particular. And I think it wasn't really fair. I think we gave Miyoo as a company sort of a back punch, but this handheld is actually truly decent. The problem with it was that it didn't have good firmware. Now we have Spruce, which is an amazing custom firmware. I cannot understate this. Spruce is literally the sister of Onion OS. It has all of the features from Onion OS that I care about, like instant hibernate, which is fake hibernate, but still it works like a charm. It has a game switcher. It's clean as heck. Just look at how clean and beautiful it looks. This is literally now, after we got Spruce 3.0, this is literally a horizontal Miyoo Mini now. And if you know me, then you know that this is one heck of a big compliment. Plus, if we are to quickly compare it with the RG28XX, just look at the buttons here. The buttons are immense. They are actually even bigger than some of these other handhelds. And this is a 2.8-inch micro handheld. The D-pad, look at the differences here. The D-pad and even the recessed stick and the buttons, especially the shoulder and trigger buttons, they feel absolutely amazing. I'm telling you, with the right software, this is an amazing handheld. This got so little attention compared to this, and it's just a travesty in my opinion. Now onto perhaps the handheld that I covered the most on this channel, and that is the Anbernic RG35XX H. You know, I don't know why we collectively forgot about this one. I even made a video called something like, why did we forget about the RG35XX H? Freaking karma, my dear nerds. So I had to stop the recording because I received 2 packages. And remember a bit earlier when I said that this white RG CubeXX didn't fit in with the rest of the collection? Well, a black RG CubeXX from 2 Retro just came in, and I have a special video planned for this one in the near future, stay tuned for that. But the second package is something which I think a lot of you fine nerds might be interested in. Just look at this beauty which just dropped into the Vlad Nerd house. I'm just gonna give you a sneak peek of this before I actually put it away, because I do want us to continue with the rest of the video, but I think I'm gonna shoot a first impressions video of this one back to back. So I don't know which video I'm gonna publish first, but in case you see this video after this one, know that they were filmed one after the other. Which, fun fact, I never did up until now. I always film the videos a few days apart from each other. So yeah, I am removing this truthfully beautiful white little guy from the collection and adding its counterpart now. But anyway, going back to our faithful RG35XX H, you know, I loved and still love this handheld. This is perhaps one of the best handhelds out there because it's just immensely pocketable, and it has a few quality of life features that for some reason weren't present in the next handhelds, like these rubber pads. These are simply a lifesaver, okay? Because you can place the handheld on anything and it's not slippery, plus they are just very slightly taller than the rest of the case, so you will most probably never have scratches on the back of this device. And yeah, it's made to be pocketable and to be transported everywhere. Look at the sticks, they are almost the same size as the D-pad. We have inline triggers and bumpers, but I personally never minded this. I don't mind this in the slightest. I think a lot of people quickly get used to this. So yeah, this for me is one of the handhelds that I loved so freaking much, and I was always quite sad to see that it got more or less phased out because other handhelds appeared along the way. The RG40XX H. This is a direct improvement of the RG35XX H, but it suffers from a lot of the things that the other ones suffered as well. This is a dang great handheld which went into irrelevance way faster than it should have, and I don't understand why. It has a lot of things going for it. You see, people might have complained with the RG35XX H that that one had inline shoulder and trigger buttons. Well, they resolved that here, because here we have stacked shoulder and trigger buttons. We have a bigger 4-inch screen that's 4x3, which is perfect for most retro consoles. Plus, it has the same SoC. All of these Linux ones, except the TrimUI Smart Pro, they have the same H700 SoC, meaning that they all play the same. There's no game that can play on one which can't play on any other Linux Anbernic device. And yeah, you can see me here with the GTA 3 port, works like a freaking charm, looks very nice on a 4-inch 4x3, and it's way more portable than the others because it doesn't have those little horns which improve ergonomics, but I was never really too gaga over the whole ergonomics fever dream or debate, because this is comfortable to me. You know, you just like the Nintendo Switch, you hold it, it's very round in the edges, and I was able to play this device for hours on end, and I can still do that. It's a beauty of a device. It's too bad that along with this fast handheld release cycle that we had in 2024, we forgot about such a gem. Thankfully, it's still out for sale, and we need to remember that these devices, they are not old. They can never get old because they share the same SoC, meaning that they will always be updated with custom firmware, updates to the regular firmware, and so on and so forth. So the RG40XX H always had and will have a place in my heart. Now, the RG CubeXX for me was a natural evolution over what the RG Cube should have been. When the RG Cube actually released, I never understood why this didn't have Linux. And then we saw this guy. So a 1x1 screen genuinely makes sense when it comes to this category of budget Linux devices. You see, a 1x1 screen is what I would call a niche within a niche, my dear nerds. And this aspect ratio should only exist where Pico 8 exists. Yeah, the 1x1 screen, you could say, has a lot of other practicality, like with Nintendo DS, you can stack the displays on top of the other, or you can even say that Game Boy Advance looks decent on a 1x1 screen, but you know on what aspect ratio screen most other things look way more than decent? On a 4x3 screen. So while 1x1 has its merits, especially Pico 8 and maybe, like I said, Nintendo DS, we have to admit that it belongs in the Linux handheld category. Android and Android's emulation capabilities simply weren't able to take advantage of the 1x1 screen as much as this guy. And this is where I think my thoughts are with this. The RG CubeXX is a clear evolution over what the RG40XX H was, and the RG40XX H was a clear evolution of the 35XX H. One thing that I kind of like about Anbernic is that you can see the incremental improvements from one generation to another. Now we're at the CubeXX generation. This is a good feeling handheld, don't get me wrong. And the buttons, shoulder and trigger buttons, feel very nice. But you have to be in that niche within a niche, aka you must like the 1x1 aspect ratio screen for this to make sense for you. Now for the TrimUI Smart Pro, I left this for last when it comes to Linux handhelds, because I feel like the TrimUI Smart Pro is a creature of its own. It's from a different company, it's not an Anbernic, it's not a Paukidi. TrimUI put some serious thought into this when they first released it. Someone in the comments once said that the TrimUI Smart Pro is the love child of a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro if they had a kid with a Linux handheld. And I totally agree with this analogy. You see, this is like the gateway drug into getting a 16:9 Retroid device like the Retroid Pocket 5 or the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. It simply tailors to the people that want something that looks like a PS Vita, I would say. And if you configure this right, this is immensely powerful. An absolutely immensely good emulation device. Just look at how many consoles this thing can emulate. It's simply crazy. And by the way, in case you're wondering why I have so many consoles here, it's because this has a pre-built game card from Lit NXT. But don't get me wrong, the TrimUI Smart Pro also has some drawbacks. For example, a thing that always made me feel like I should pull back from it is the lack of L3 and R3. The irony of it is that you don't get to use the L3 and R3 a lot in the games that this emulates. But there's a lot of ports that you can use with this handheld, things like GTA 3, GTA 4. Ignore that, I spoke out of my backside. There are ports like GTA 3 and GTA Vice City. That for me is technically the first GTA 4. And there you need the L3 and R3. I do understand why they skipped the L3 and R3, because this has Vita sticks and Vita always lacked L3 and R3, but still, as a universal device, I wish they were there. Now, granted, like I said, you'll most probably never need L3 and R3, but for peace of mind, you know, it's good if this had them. Still though, this is one of the best handhelds at their price point that were released. I don't imagine one being able to get more than this for roughly $50, because that's kind of the price that this is selling at nowadays. It's simply a lot of handheld for the money. And now we are down to the Android handhelds, my dear nerds. This is the category of handhelds where you have to pay multiple hundreds of dollars in order to get one of these things. And I would argue that this price bracket, well, it's both good and bad. It's bad because they are considerably more expensive than their Linux counterparts. These can cost up to 5 times more than the ones that you saw before. But these, all of these, can play up to PlayStation 2 and even some, a tiny bit of Switch and Nintendo Wii, GameCube. Basically that generation of games can be experienced on these as well, especially on this little guy and this little guy, but I'll go into more detail down the road. First, let's start with the oldest ones that we have here, which is this one. Now, I still have to make a video on the RG556. This is a beautiful handheld for what it is. It has a nice AMOLED screen, which looks really kind of gorgeous. And if you don't mind it being a bit bigger, it's really one comfortable beast to have around the house. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying, yeah, look at the fingerprints, by the way. This is a fingerprint magnet. But this is one of the most comfortable freaking handhelds that I laid my hands on. Look at how my fingers rest here. Let me get closer to you. Do you see how my fingers naturally sit in this position? This is, without exaggeration, more comfortable than a freaking Xbox controller. I enjoy holding the RG556 like this, unironically, way more than I enjoy holding a controller like this. I don't know why. This is just amazing to feel in the fingers. Power-wise, I'll just say it very quickly and as it is. All of these handhelds right here, they have the same SoC. They all have the Unisoc T820 SoC, and they all play up to PS2 and a tiny bit of Switch. By a tiny bit, I mean Portal kind of goes at 55 FPS more or less, and Broforce again sits in in its 50s. And from my experience, most of the PlayStation 2 that I tried works great, except for Need for Speed Underground. This one had to be taken down to 1x internal resolution. But yeah, and there's a reason why the RG556 was so popular. Android games are made for 16:9, aka this aspect ratio, so all Android games will look amazingly on this. A problem that people had with the RG556 is that the sticks do cardinal snapping, meaning that they lock to up, down, left, right, but well, you can't win them all, you know. There's an AMOLED screen here, it looks very nice, it's a very comfortable handheld, and this is one of the first Anbernic Android handhelds, which in my opinion really took traction and became more or less the standard of Android handhelds in the retro community. Now, before I am corrected, I know there are other Android handhelds that appeared before the RG556. I'm just saying that this is one of the Android handhelds that became truly popular. This, along with its Retroid counterpart at the time, which is the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, another legend that we have right here. And by the way, in case you're wondering why the UI looks the same on all of these handhelds, is because I have a very specific way of configuring Emulation Station. I'm gonna make a video on that a bit later, my nerds, in case you want that. But the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, in my opinion, is one of the best handhelds out there, possibly one that can even match its newer sibling, the Retroid Pocket 5, because this one has a plastic body. A lot of people are into that, even though it has a smaller screen. Well, you know, we win on one side and we lose on another. And this is still relevant, and in my opinion, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro will still be relevant in 2025 as well, because it has similar performance to the 5, and yeah, the screen is a bit smaller, actually quite a bit smaller, but the front is plastic, and some people really like that. And I'm one of them. I am a fan of plastic handhelds. I never wanted metal handhelds, or how should I put this, or full glass handhelds. Yeah, the glass ones, they look amazing, they look premium, but I always have that background anxiety. What if I drop a glass handheld at one point? Imagine the crack, imagine how it gets destroyed. You simply don't have that with plastic handhelds like this, and this is something that everyone should emphasize. Unfortunately, not a lot of people emphasize the advantages of a plastic front in handhelds. I'm just glad that plastic is still the standard. I am afraid of a day when even Linux budget handhelds would have glass fronts. Imagine how many posts would be on Reddit with people messing their handhelds up. One extra thing to mention about the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is that it has quite a bit more performance than everything that we saw and will continue to see from the Anbernic side. You see, the MediaTek D1100 of the 4 Pro is very similar in performance with the Snapdragon 865 that we have in the Retroid Pocket 5, and by association the Retroid Mini as well, which roughly translates to 40% more performance than what the Unisoc T820, aka the SoC in the Anbernic Android devices, has. So there's quite a bit of performance overhead in Retroid land because of that. And the main advantage of the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is that it's now going down in price because it has a successor. The Retroid Pocket 5 is out there, and a lot of stores have stock of the 4 Pro, which they now want to get rid of. So expect the 4 Pro to continue to go down in price as we go in 2025. Now the RG Cube. You know, I had such mixed feelings about this, my dear nerds, I can't describe it to you. At first I looked at this as if I looked at a pug. Now, I'm sorry, my dear nerds, in case hope you're one of the people that loves pugs and has a pug, but when I look at a pug, I think of, holy heck, what did we do with to that breed? You know, we have pictures of pugs from the early 90s, they were freaking beautiful, but they don't look like that today. When this handheld came, the RG Cube to me appeared like a pug, as in the screen was a bit abnormal because of the 1:1 aspect ratio, and I tried to figure out what can be played on it given that it has Android, and Android doesn't have Pico 8, and most retro consoles, they are 4:3. So where did this one sit? Now, the saving grace of the RG Cube for me is that I don't mind stretch to fit, as a lot of you fine nerds might know. I don't mind not being faithful to the original grid of pixels that a game should be displayed at. You know, let us stretch them. More screen real estate is always better than fidelity. And yes, I know a lot of you probably had heart attacks now that I said this, but you know, everyone plays as they want. For me, I'm blind as a bat. I didn't used to be. It's just that my eyes are quickly growing old, and at such an accelerated rate that, don't even get me started with this. It's such a freaking tragedy that my eyes are the first ones to feel that I'm going from my 30s to my 40s. It's a dang tragedy. So one of the things that I do to counteract this is I stretch to fit. But to be fair, if you apply the right filters, it really doesn't look bad. Look at this. In my opinion, this is totally playable. It looks quite okay. Here's how Contra looks, just so we are in familiar territory here. And you can argue with me as much as you want. My dear nerds, this looks okay. This is playable. Granted, I don't like this hacked version of Contra where you start with the best weapon, but on 1:1 with the proper CRT and scanline shaders, you can actually have quite a bit of fun with everything that was made for 4:3. And yeah, I know, heresy, but just try it, you know, don't knock it until you try it, like the kids say. Now, the Retroid Pocket Mini. A lot of people are excited by this, and for good reason, my dear nerds. You see, this is the most portable form factor that you can have. Just look at this, it fits in the palm of my hand, which also gives you a poop ton of performance. This has the same SoC as the Retroid Pocket 5, which is the Snapdragon 865, and that gives you way more than enough performance overhead for basically everything PS2 related. I'm not even gonna tell you that you might have to play with the settings and blah blah blah. No, it's enough for PS2 and it's enough for PSP as well. Heck, it's even enough for some Switch. You will need to find the appropriate turnip drivers though for that. This is a pleasure as long as you don't mind the big bezels on the top and the bottom. But if you're bothered by the bezel, then you need to check out the full review video that I made on the Retroid Pocket Mini, because I covered that this big bezel is nothing more than an illusion. It's actually way smaller than the bezels on many other handhelds. It's just that this particular device has what I call a single bezel and not a double bezel. Let me explain. You see, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro might appear like it has a slimmer bezel, but you need to always calculate the plastic bezel of the chassis of the case itself and the bezel of the screen as well. And if I were to take out my trusty old ruler, this is like a millimeter or half a millimeter bigger than what we actually have here. So with the Retroid Pocket Mini, you need to ask yourself, how much are you willing to be bothered by this? If the answer is not much, then go ahead and enjoy it, my dear nerds. This is an amazing device for what it is. All 4:3 content like PS2, they look amazing on this. They simply look amazing. There's no contest here. Look, you know, this can be something that is enjoyed. You put in your pocket and you just move around and you go about your day. You do your human nerd things, you know, you travel, you fall in love, you invest, you work, you poop, this can be by your side while you do all of those things. So yeah, beautiful device. One flaw which might bother a lot of people, and because of this frame right here, this was always condemned to sit in the shadow of its bigger brother, the Retroid Pocket 5, which I don't think is quite fair, but it is what it is, you know. I think Retroid knew that ideally they would have found at least a 4-inch AMOLED screen that's 4x3, so they make this bezel smaller, but I'm pretty sure they couldn't supply such a screen, so they made a compromise here. In my opinion, this is still a good contender for the best horizontal handheld of this year. But before we come to the final conclusion, we must look at this last little guy. You see, my dear nerds, it's no secret out there that I've been waiting for a 4x3 handheld that can do PS2 since forever, and this year we got quite a few contenders, both from Retroid and from Anbernic. And the RG406H was definitely one of my favorite handhelds of this year. It has a good screen, it has enough power for most PS2, it has, like all the other Anbernic devices, it can do a bit of switch, but not a lot, and it's otherwise a very complete package. You have analog sticks, it's very comfortable in the hand, you have a good D-pad, those amazing new generation sticks that Anbernic seems to default on now with Android Handhelds. At first I didn't like them for being so tall, but you know, you have simply just a ton of mobility with them and freedom of movement, and I think just for that alone, the tallness of the sticks can be forgiven. These are beauties. This is literally a complete handheld for people who want to maximize their retro enjoyment with a 4x3 screen. There's no other way around it. It's one of the best out there. But will it take the title of the best handheld of 2024 that's horizontal? Well, we're gonna find out soon. You see, it was quite a challenge to go through all of these handhelds. I think together I filmed for an hour and a half. This is what passion for retro handhelds does to you. You know, you end up talking like an idiot to cameras, to invisible people for hours on end. But anyway, invisible drum roll. I don't actually have a drum. I'll see if I'm lazy, maybe I'll add a special effect. But let's see who my personal, remember this is all subjective as heck, who my personal runner-ups for the best retro handheld in 2024 are. And bam! Surprise, mother flippers! I bet none of you expected the RG40XX H to be my best Linux handheld of 2024. You see, this one has all the bells and whistles that people would need and want. It just suffers from the curse of being released a few devices ago, so we as a community, we collectively have goldfish memory. This one should have been all the rage. It has a 4x3 aspect ratio screen, a big screen, a 4-incher, and it can play almost everything that any other Linux handheld can. It's been out there for enough time for it to be supported by all major custom firmwares that we have out there, as well as all the modern creature comforts like LED lights in the joysticks, if you're into that. But I would say this is the most complete package for most people, and it really makes me sad that people forget about this one. Now, for the Android counterpart, well, this was a toss-up, because I love the... wait for it. I love the Retroid Pocket Mini, but I'm kind of blind as a bat by this point, and I need that bigger screen. There's no shame in me saying it. If you have good eyesight, default to the Retroid Pocket Mini. If, you know, you don't end up squinting like heck from the screen. This is an amazing device. It's just that for me the screen is just a tad too small. Whereas the Retroid Pocket 406H gives me 4 inches, which is just enough for me to properly enjoy playing whatever I would play on this thing and actually loving it. So yeah, you might ask yourself, Vlad, what other contenders are there? Did you have any finalists, any second place or third place handheld? Well, I'm glad you asked, my dear nerd, because of course, not that I planted that question or anything, but there's actually both categories have a top 3. So the RG40XX H takes top 1 when it comes to Linux handhelds for me. Then there's the RG35XX H, which I love, at number 3 actually, not number 2. For most people, the TrimUI Smart Pro is a solid number 2 or even a solid number 1 for people who want the 16:9 screen. I for one would trade the 16:9 for 4:3 for more pocketability, portability. You know, this is just a smaller handheld, but this is a complete package for a lot of people. And in number 3, of course, there's my little soldier right here, my beloved. I will never give this handheld up. This is, as you know, the RG35XX H, and this is just a tiny little beast. I played so many hours on this. You know, the RG35XX H, like, this is probably my most used handheld. I think it passed the Miyoo Mini Plus in usage. That's how much I loved it. I made the most videos about it out of all handhelds. I think I made 7, 8 or 10 videos on the H. But, you know, like all good things, the truth is that its successor brought some very good improvements to it. It's less pocketable, but the experience is better enough for that tiny loss in pocketability, or that medium-sized loss in pocketability, to be actually lost. In Android land though, as far as I'm concerned, the 406H is the most complete package that we have. Then we have the Mini, and in third place, or possibly second place, I'll leave this out for you, there's the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. I think for pocketability reasons, I'll put I'll put the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro in third place, because this is how I enjoy them currently. In terms of priority, these are my go-tos. But you might ask yourself, why isn't the Retroid Pocket 5 here? Well, the answer is simple. I simply didn't receive it on time, even though I ordered it like any other person. Unfortunately, me and Retroid don't collaborate for some reason. Retroid, we should be friends and we should collaborate. I'm saying it yet again. But, you know, I paid for Retroid Pocket 5 Black Edition, and it was sent after a delay. It still hasn't arrived, but by the time it arrives, everyone and their mother will talk about something else, and I don't even think me doing videos on it is even relevant by this point. But I digress. These are my own frustrations. Retroid is still a good company. Don't get me wrong, I'm not throwing dirt at them. I just wish, at the very least, if they don't want to collaborate, they could have sent it on time so I make videos on it. But yeah, when the YouTuber cries that he didn't get the handheld early, I totally understand. Yeah, it sounds cringy to me as well, but you know, it's an endless hamster wheel. You try to cover things as quickly as possible to satisfy the nice people that, you know, surround you and form a community around your channel. I would have loved to present to you fine people videos on the Retroid Pocket 5, but oh well, I digress. Let's go back to our thing here. With the handhelds that I have, let me eliminate the glare. This is the order, you know, and you might be wondering now, Vlad, I don't have some of these. Maybe I want to purchase some of these. Maybe I want to promote consumerism by getting more handhelds. Well, I'm gonna say this. The video description of this video is chock full with affiliate links, meaning that if you get any of these handhelds from those affiliate links, you feed the channel as well. And by channel I mean me, you feed me. And all of them are available at lit.nxt. That will be my first link, And then there's gonna be AliExpress and Amazon links as well, so you're free to choose your platform of choice. Regarding Lit NXT, I fully trust them. They have a Christmas sale now, so if you get any of these handhelds, you will have 15% off. But as always, this video is my own. Lit NXT had no part in this video. I just like them, you know, I like them, and I'm confident that nobody will have a bad experience. If something happens to your handheld, I'm convinced those guys will take care of you properly. So, I've been filming, my dear nerds. Oh, God, for 2 hours, I think. Oh, I dare to not imagine how much I have to edit. This video will not be super edited like the rest. This is more me, you know. This is me freestyling it. I don't know if you're gonna like this video or not. Maybe you'll hate it, maybe you'll love it. This is more talking about handhelds and less of us, you know, enjoying and cracking jokes. It's a different style for sure. Let me know what you think. Do you want more long format videos like these? Because I love to not shut up, you know? I love to talk. I can talk forever, you know? If you like this kind of video, I can make 1,000,000 videos per week. Well, not really, but still a lot. You know, way more than it would be actually comfortable to make. So anyway, my dear nerds, this is all for me. Well, not really, this is all for this video. I still have to wait. So this will be the next little contender that I really want to check out now. You know, I didn't even turn it on. I got it in the middle of filming this, and I really want to see what this is all about. If you want to help me with this channel, please like and subscribe. If you want to help me more directly, become a Patreon or a channel member. I would love you forever. Plus, don't forget, I have a Discord as well. If you want us to talk directly, come there. That's the perfect place for you and me to communicate. And there's an awesome community of nerds there as well. We talk about all kinds of things you would fit right in. You know, just jump on the Discord. Yeah, the link is in the description. Anyway, I love you very much. I hope you know this, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye.